Maaga akong nagising ngayon, 5:30 a.m. Sabi ko gusto kong mag-exercise ba ng aga-aga. Kaya inagahan ko siya ngayon. Pag ganitong oras, marami pang nag-exercise, oh. May tumatakbo doon. Last year, nakakapag-jogging pa ako. Gusto ko rin lagi na kahit pa paano ba, kahit busy tayo, mag-active pa rin tayo. Ang bilis tumakbo ni Kuya. Ayan oh, tumatakbo siya oh. Ang bilis niyang tumakbo. May naglalakad. Ayan si Kuya kanina niya tumatakbo oh. Tumatakbo siya kanina. Ang bilis-bilis niyang tumakbo. Gusto ko yung pagka-green dito eh. Dito nga tayo. Kahapon nagkasagutan kami ng anak ko, nung panganay. Pero hindi naman yung malalang sagutan. Okay lang naman siya actually. Kaya lang, lagi pa rin ako nagsisearch ba sa Google kung paano makipag-usap sa mga teenager ngayon. Good morning! Happy Friday, guys! Yesterday evening, my son, who is 14 years old, he actually did the dishes. He washed the dishes yesterday while I was doing the laundry. So I was really thankful. But then, you know, before we go to sleep, he was actually telling me something and I cannot get it easily right away because I'm doing the other stop. And suddenly he gets really irritated. He got irritated so fast. And I told him, "Why do you get irritated so fast?" "Mom, because I was telling you this and you're not listening." And I told him, because I'm doing, I'm also doing other stops here and I cannot focus on what you're saying. But I told him, you should control also your anger. I think nowadays, my son, he is sometimes, even though he's stubborn and he has a strong opinion, but I know he still obeys us. He still obeys me and my husband. But I'm actually just worried that maybe there will come a time that, he will be not opening to us. And because sometimes he can easily get pissed off. So I try to talk to him a lot nowadays. And I try to search in Google also, how to deal with angry teenager like that. Because sometimes he is really easily quick to anger. I think maybe young people often get angry quickly because their hormones are surging, and of course they are half child and half adult, so their brain is still developing. And I think the overwhelming stress of navigating that they are already or they want to be independent, and they can do a lot of things on their own, and maybe social pressures also. So nowadays I do try to listen a lot of podcasts on how to deal with your teenage child. There's still a lot of people who is exercising here in the morning. This time actually, there's a lot of people who are still exercising. I can see like maybe 15 people. So outside there and here inside, there's still a lot of people who is still exercising during this morning. Let's go near the river because I still have time. I did woke up early today because I really want to go near the river. Look at the greenery, guys. You know, even though your head is full of a lot of stressors, daily stressors, but if you can see the greenery, it is so mesmerizing, so beautiful. So I do try to go to a walk every morning. It makes me clear my mind with a lot of stuff. So yesterday when I was searching in the internet, I found out that there are a lot of, reasons why the teenager or a child is very quick to anger. So some of the biological factors is that because their brain development is still developing, so they are just half a child and half adult, even though they think that they can actually do everything that they can, but still they need to obey their parents because they're still a child. They're still not adult. They will be adult after 18 years old. So still, of course, we need to supervise them. Look at the flowers. Wow. It looks so pretty. Hi, Squella. Wusu 4036. How are you? Good morning. I'm actually talking about, how to deal with someone who is really quick to anger. And nowadays, I'm dealing it with my teenage son. Even though he's a very good son, actually, my son is really obedient to us and very sweet. And he tries to help me a lot in, household chores or washing the dishes or throwing the garbage. Yeah. But nowadays, I actually observe that he's really quick to anger than before. And of course, I don't want also to ruin my teenage kids, because sometimes we tend to shout at them, actually, because if they talk back to us, we think that they are not actually obeying us. Oh, my alarm. Yeah. So, actually, because of that, sometimes we get a lot of argument, and I do try to search a lot nowadays also. How can I deal with my child who has a lot of frustrations? Maybe because he has also more academics in school, and he needs to do a lot in his academy. And three times in a week, he actually finishes everything at around 10 p.m. in the evening. So maybe I think he has a lot of pressure also of doing everything that he needs to do. And after that, he still has to do some of his assignments or homework. The tree looks so nice. So as a parent, actually, I just saw in the net that to be able for us to deal with our angry teenager, we need to open up with them and try to stay calm and try to validate their emotions, without yelling and without being aggressive. Because if you show them aggressive behavior, actually they have this, defense mechanism that they will yell back to us, and they're in their fight mode already, ready to talk back, ready to talk back to us and argue. Yeah. How are you there, Escuela Wusu? Happy Friday to you. But of course, we need to set our clear boundaries to them also. So nowadays, if he has some blow-ups, or I think that he's really irritable, so I try to avoid lecturing him during his active blow-ups. And instead, I try to listen actively. I do try my best to listen actively to him, even though sometimes I really want to lecture him too, but he needs to obey us. But then I don't know what's going on with his mind, so I do try to talk to him a lot, and I told him that if he has a lot of pressure, or if he is tired on his academics, like yesterday, so he still has some extra academics, and he came home around 5 p.m. and then he's really tired, and I told him, do you want to rest? And he told me that, yeah, mom, I'm so tired. So I told him, okay, I will call your teacher. So I'll try to, send a message to his teacher. Yeah, that he cannot come actually in the academy. So I told him, you can just tell us, how do you feel? And just because sometimes he's just quiet. I think that is how teenager nowadays, they try to keep everything inside themselves because maybe they are shy to talk to their parents, and they don't know how to deal with it. Even though they don't know how to deal with it, they still want to keep it inside them. So I try to tell him, if you really want to talk to us, you can open up anytime you want, and we will listen to you. And if you have a lot of social pressures or have a lot of difficulty in your academies in school or with your friends, you can also open up to us. And I think because we try to talk to him a lot, it helps. It helps a lot. He's trying to open up to us, and even though he is really quick to anger, and sometimes he try to, outburst. He has some outburst sometimes. But still, he is still able to, deliver the message that he wants us to hear. So if he do so, I try to tell him, very good. Okay, very good, son, even though you're trying to control your emotion and you're having, an active outburst, but still you try to communicate with us and tell us, why do you feel this way? Yeah. So I think it actually helps a lot if we talk about it to our growing child. Because if they are teenager already, they have their own mind. I'm just alone here. There's no one in here. But I love the greenery here. I love the forest vibes. I sometimes I try to give him space, and I talk to him, and I try to avoid lecturing him, and I try to listen actively. So I try to give him space to cool down and try to discuss it later in a more calm state. So if he's more calmer, I can actually talk to him easier. And I think it works. So because sometimes as parents, we actually cannot control our anger too, because we thought that they are already disrespecting us. They don't have respect, and sometimes we try to tell them, don't backtalk, but actually it is their way to communicate. Because they cannot control their emotions very well. Actually, as adults also, it is really hard to control our emotions when we are angry or when we are really stressed, and we tend to yell a lot and say a lot of bad words or curse someone. So me also, because I don't want my children, to deal with an angry parent or angry mom. So I try to listen a lot to podcasts, how to deal with your child if they're having tantrums, or your teenage child if they are having an active outburst and they're trying to argue to you. So how do you try to deal with it? Because as a parent, sometimes, you know, we do try our best that they will hear what we want them to hear. But sometimes we forgot to listen to them. We forgot to actively listen because we are busy, trying to construct all the words, all the messages that we need to tell them. And then we forgot that they're actually, they have their own mind already. They have their own opinion already. And we need to accept it also. And they're not a child anymore. So I always remind myself about it that, my teenage child now is not a child. And he's a growing man. So I try to give him space a lot nowadays. And I tell him that if you need to talk to us, just open up and tell us. Because sometimes he will come home after school or after his extra activities. He's very, very tired and very irritable. If you ask him something, he's like actually answering us yelling, in a yelling voice. So I do try to give him space nowadays. And I told him that if he needs something, he can just tell us. And of course, I told him also, of course, there's still a boundary, that even though he's angry, he cannot actually disrespect us and say these bad words, towards us, because we are his parents and we are here, to guide him and to protect him, and we are not his enemy. Yeah. So sometimes actually I try to regulate my emotions too. And I try not to take it personally. Because a teen's anger is often driven by their brain development, their hormones, they're all still developing, and because of the daily stressors. So I try to take a step back and allow myself to respond rationally and thinking about what he is thinking on his mind also. And of course, rather than reacting with my own anger, I try to rationalize it. Yeah, and control my emotions too. So I think actually, we are not just the one who is getting difficulty trying to raise our growing child. Because they have their own difficulty also. Their brain is not fully developed yet as an adult, so they need to deal with it also. And nowadays I try to listen more and talk less. I think it's helping a lot. Because if I talk more, he will not listen. And sometimes he is really ready to argue, and he's on his fight mode, ready to talk back. So I try to listen more to him and talk less, even though I do want to say a lot of things to him also. Yeah. And I try to hug him. I still try to hug him a lot. And I told him that, we are just here. You can open up anytime that you want. And try not to see us as your enemy. But we are here as your guide, as your parents, as your friends, as your protector. Yeah, so I tried to tell him a lot like that. Oh, there are two couple.
이 길을 쭉 가면 어디 나와요?
아, 저쪽에는 병원이 있거든요.
그럼 이게 한국 타이어예요?
아, 네네. 이쪽에는 저기 그 자전거 타는 거
아니 여기
조금
위에는
위험하고.
한국 타이어.
네네, 맞아요. 여기는 한국 타이어고 쭉 가면은 저기 그 예쁜 공원이 있더라고요.
그랬어요?
예, 저기는 저기 막 초코도 하고.
그래요?
예.
고맙습니다.
네, 안녕히 계세요. 네. They try to ask me if there is, because there is like a forest there, and they do try to ask me if where is that way will go, and I told them that there's a park in there, so they can actually go there. So I'm actually just going back and forth here because I'm alone exercising. Of course, I still need to be careful, even though it's morning. Hi, Gazalian! Good morning! Ah, my voice is good in Korean. Thank you so much. 안녕하세요. Because they're asking me about the way. So there is actually two ways to go. So you can actually go in the middle. In the middle is another way to go to the park. But in the upper left, if you go there, actually it is a bicycle track. Look, there's a lot of people who is riding their bike here. But even though it is a bicycle track, still there's a lot of people who goes there. Ah, they're actually going back. I think they will not go there. 아, 안 가세요? 안 가세요?
처음 가보는 길이라 약간
네.
처음 가는 길이라
아, 괜찮아요.
괜찮아요?
네.
너무 멀어가지고
그래요.
다음 주에 또 가자.
아, 저기는 가면은요, 약간 숲처럼이지만은 약간 나무가 다넬처럼 보이는데, 예, 쭉 가면은 괜찮은 거 있어요. 예뻐요. 네.
좋은 날 되세요.
아, 네네, 안녕히 가세요. 네. They try to go back because I think her wife is worried that this is her first time to go in this side. And I think because the weeds are very long, so they might felt because they still didn't cut these weeds, and the trees are really good in here. But sometimes, even though I go alone here, I try to walk alone by myself. Hi, Sedao Delalim. How are you? Good morning. If they cut these weeds, it is much better actually, but I think they're still waiting for it to grow longer before they cut it. Actually, they maintain it better. Their maintenance here in Korea is really good. In the park or even here and this, you know, it's a little bit like inside the forest, but still they have the chance. If they have the chance, they try to cut all the weeds so that the family can actually go here together and can walk together. Where am I from? I'm living here in Korea right now with my Korean family, and I'm married to a Korean man, my husband. But I came from Manila. Yeah. Sadauch Dalalim, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. Kenchana means I'm good, right? Yes. Kenchanayo, it means that it's okay. You're okay with it. Yeah. I'm okay like that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hi, Stuffer F6 8E. How are you? Hi, Squella Wusu. And Sedal Debalim. How are you guys? Thanks for tuning in. Nowadays, I try to listen more to him, to my son, and talk less. You know, my son and me, we had an argument yesterday, and I tried to talk less and listen to him more. And because I did that, he tries to open up and talk more. And after that, he tries to say goodnight. Yeah, he tries to say goodnight to me also. Yeah. So, still, I think that, he can still feel safe to open up to us. I think that is the most important thing. Because I don't want him to, have secrets. If he can open up with us and tell us his worries, or if he has some problems, we can guide him better. Three heads are better than one. Because if he will just think of himself, it is just one brain working. And if he told us, me and my husband and him, then there are three brains working to solve whatever situation is it. So I told him about it. Ah, yeah, it's okay. Because I told him, I'm teaching kids here in Korea. And actually, before, I have a lot of conversation, English tutorials. So I was able to use English language a lot through my conversational class. But because I just teach kids nowadays and I try to stop my tutorials because, I also need to take care of my children. Yeah. So I do try to do live in English. Actually, I can talk, I can also talk in my language, but actually it's okay. I have someone at my back. He's also exercising. So actually he approves it. I told him sometimes he's also watching my live. So I told him I'm doing live also so that, I can actually practice my English too. And because if I don't use the English language a lot. I try, I do forget it a lot nowadays. Yeah. So, nandiyan kasi ya. I try to tell him that he can go first because I'm actually, walking slowly. Yeah, so it is okay to him that I'm doing live streams. I told him, I need to also use English language, and because nowadays I tend to forget a lot. Because I'm just using Korean language only in every day, talking to my husband and talking to my son and daughter. I only use pure Korean language, but I do try to talk to them in English sometimes, but because they cannot understand me, so the result is I'm talking to them in Korean again. Yeah. But I try to, talk to my son uh, in English, especially if I'm sending a message. So he can actually send me an English message too. And he tries to. He tries his best, to send me an English message. It is also to practice his, um, sentence structure and his grammar in English. Yeah. It is also my way to practice him. Ah, hello. Thanks for tuning in. It is actually, what time is it now? 7:11 in the morning here in Korea. I'm actually walking here outside our apartment. So there is actually a river near our apartment. So I usually try to walk here in the morning if I still have time. So during my live stream, I try to talk a lot about different topics, and sometimes there are some of my audience who are, trying to ask a lot. Before, there is a friend of mine in YT here in YouTube. He asked me about marriages here in Korea, and is it true that, there are a lot of people who doesn't want to marry and just want to live single like that. Yeah. And also, I want to use English language also more, because nowadays I can only use just basic English because I teach small kids, so I cannot use hard ones or difficult ones. Before, I have some adult tutorials, so adult conversation class tutorials, so I can actually do a lot of conversation. And if I do so, I can actually remember all the forgotten vocabularies. Yeah. So that's why I decided to, if I will do live stream here in YouTube, I'll try to use English. Sometimes I do use Tagalog, but I prefer to use English. Do you have YouTube channel also, Sedab de Balim? Do you do some content? My content is about, cooking and family life, marriage life, everyday life, and how do we cope with it. I think if you have a teenage child, it is better to pick your battles. So we need to think if this battle is worth fighting for or not, or it is better not to fight or argue, so that you will not hurt each other's feelings. So not every, if they are eye rolling and they are like talking back, I think it doesn't require a confrontation. Because sometimes we tend to confront them and ask them, why are you talking back to me? Like that. So it's better just to save our energy for behaviors that are truly disrespectful or unsafe. Yeah, so I think it is better to just pick our battles wisely than just always in your fight mode, trying to attack your child, or trying to let him, you need to be obedient every time. I think it is also not good doing it. I think I'm walking now 42 minutes. Oh, I didn't realize that I'm walking 42 minutes now. Sometimes after I do live, I try to watch my videos and I try to hear myself. Oh, I need to improve this area, like that. Or I need to listen more to a lot of podcasts so that I can be better also, and I can be good on my vocabularies. Because just using Korean language every day, I forgot a lot of words. Good to hear from you, Sidal Belalim. Hope you will have a good day today, and thanks for tuning in. I think, as a parent, it is really good to step away or take a holy pause when you feel really frustrated and you have a racing heart and you want to clench your jaw. I think we need to shift our mindset by recognizing that our child's behavior is often age appropriate exploration, and because they're still developing and they still cannot discipline themselves very well. So I think we need to have more patience to them. So for me, taking time out for myself, that's why I do walking a lot in the morning, because it's helping me a lot to clear my mind on yesterday's stressors and to prepare my mindset clearly. So sometimes, if we step away, we can ensure that our child is safe And we should shape our thoughts like, or we should have a mantra to ourselves that, you know, it is okay and this is actually not an emergency situation or something like a dangerous situation at all, because he is our child and he is not an enemy. He is just having an outburst or an anger or an emotional relapse that he cannot actually control. So I try to do a mantra to myself. Okay, this is not an emergency situation, and I can step back. I can step back from this, and I'll try to, connect with him later on, after his emotional outburst. Because sometimes, you know, even as adults, because we are not perfect, we do have our own outburst. And sometimes we cannot control our anger either, because we are not perfect. We do have a lot of emotional outbursts too. And I think, every day is a learning process. And while we're still here on earth, it is like continuous learning. We do learn a lot of things every day by socializing and having relationships with our family, with our friends, with our children, and we are learning from each other actually. Even though they're still a child, it doesn't mean that we know everything and they doesn't know anything at all. Me actually, I can learn a lot also from my kids or my children, even my daughter who is just 7 years old. I do learn a lot from her also, and I do try to embrace it and welcome it, because just because we are adult, it doesn't mean that we know everything. Actually, kids also can teach us a lot. Yeah. They can teach us actually to just take things lightly and just go on with our life and don't take it too seriously. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm actually will try to go back now, and I did my walking today very early because I need to do some stops also. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and I hope you will have a good Friday today. Bye, guys. Thank you.